here with Shagun, who recently graduated from UC Santa Cruz with a Bachelor's of Science in Human Biology. She's been interested in a career in healthcare and has held several clinical roles throughout her college career to help prepare her for her future employment.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. So what made you decide to pursue healthcare in the first place?
Honestly, for a really long time, I did not think of going into healthcare because that's just not something that occurred to me. I feel like I really thought about like a lot of different careers. But at the end of the day, in 10th grade of my high school, I ended up taking a class on a whim because a lot of my friends were taking it. It was called Principles of Biomedical Sciences, and basically that class, it was really cool. When I heard about it, I was like, oh, this, I didn't know that it was going to be healthcare oriented. It was more of like a forensics class. So in the beginning, they staged like a murder, and we were given, there was like a whole crime scene set up on campus, and we went as like detectives or like forensic investigators to investigate the crime scene. And the entire year we collected evidence, and like we worked on different ways that people in the real world, like detectives in the real world, the kind of things that they use to solve an actual crime case. So for example, we did like blood spatters, we like delved into the medical history of the patient, and eventually we got down to finding out that the patient in the case passed away due to an illness. And the course kind of shifted from going from like a detective standpoint to going into like thinking about it from a more medical perspective. So we started learning about like multiple different diseases that the patient had, such as diabetes, and we kind of took a month on each different type of illness that she had and which illness could have been the cause of death. And when I took that class, honestly, it really opened my eyes up to how interesting the human body is and how many different aspects go into like creating us as human beings. And we started from the fundamental unit of life, the cell, going all the way to how diseases are formed in your body and how they affect you throughout your life and when you pass due to them. So I feel like when I took that class, it got me really excited, and it was something that I had never done before. And also it was something that wasn't, in my personal opinion, it wasn't boring, it wasn't a desk job, and it was something that you constantly, you were seeing in the healthcare field, you're seeing new things every day, you're getting to interact with a multitude of different types of patients. So that really got me excited for this field.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of where it started. And then after that, I ended up taking more classes that were a little more specified to medicine rather than just like biology and chemistry, which are more general sciences. But I took I took honors human body systems, and I took human anatomy, and I feel like those classes really made me develop the interest that I have in medicine today.
Nice. So was there a specific moment or experience in that time that confirmed healthcare for you?
Honestly, no, because it's such a process to even figure out what aspect of healthcare you want to go into, because obviously being a doctor isn't the only thing in the healthcare field. You could go into nursing, you could become a PA, you could, get a master's in medical science and do all these different things. So there wasn't really ever like a moment where I was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. Even now, I wouldn't say that it's like super definitive, because there's just so many options to explore from. And I feel like that's kind of what I've been trying to do for the past few years, is just explore all my options and get my foot through the door at multiple different places and kind of see what I like the best and what kind of lifestyle I would want for myself in the future.
So, what's something that you wish that you knew before, getting into all of this stuff?
Something that I wish I knew before was definitely the time commitment, especially if you were going the pre-med route. I feel like everybody talks about, oh, it's like 4 years of college, 4 years of vet school, 4 years of residency. But honestly, like that, it's not that easy. You can't just think of it in the terms of like, oh, it's gonna take this many years, because it's not just the years, it's the classes. The classes are obviously really hard. It's the amount of effort you're putting in, the amount of sacrifices that you're gonna have to make to be able to go into this field. Like, I know a lot of people talk about this, but you probably will miss big life events. And while your friends might be doing something more fun and interesting and in their current state in life, you kind of have to do your own thing. You kind of have to study. Like, you just have to keep grinding it out. And I feel like initially in high school, I just thought of it as like, oh, well, I'm going to school right now anyways. I could just keep going to school. But, no one talks about how many exams you have to take, how many things you have to miss out on. So you honestly have to be okay with making those sacrifices to achieve your goal at the end of the day.
Right. So speaking of how hard the classes are, what classes that you took have been the hardest so far, and why?
Okay, so definitely the first one that comes to mind, I feel like this one's very basic. It's organic chemistry. And I remember I took organic chemistry my sophomore year, fall quarter, and at the same time, I just gotten my license to be a certified nursing assistant, so a CNA, but I couldn't work throughout the day because I don't know, I feel like this isn't something that a lot of people know, but when you work as a medical assistant or a CNA or an EMT, you're not allowed to just work like 4 hours a day. Like you have to work 8 to 12 hours. Like that's the shift time, and you have to work those times. You can't just show up and work 4 hours and leave like other jobs. So the issue that I was having was I didn't have 8 hours throughout the daytime to give into working, because I had classes, I had homework, I had tests. And one thing about the quarter system is that it's so fast paced that you really have to, buckle down and do everything on time. There's just no way to work 8 hours a day and then come back, go to your classes and do your work. So what I ended up doing, which this is not a good idea and I don't recommend this to anybody, but I ended up working as a CNA at a post-acute rehab center for senior citizens, but I did knock shifts. So the way that the shifts work is you can work AM shifts, so that's gonna be 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then you can work PM shifts, which is 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then you have knock shifts, which is like nocturnal, like overnight shifts from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. for about 5 months, and that was probably the worst time of my life.
Like every day?
I worked 3 days a week. So I would work 11 to 7, and then I would have my 8 a.m. OChem class, and then I would have more classes throughout the day. So I genuinely, I wasn't sleeping, I was barely eating, I was barely functioning. So not only is the class already difficult, I think I made my circumstance even more difficult. I think I made it harder for myself to succeed. And I feel like a lot of people talk about like being the perfect pre-med student, you need to do clinical hours, you need to do research, you need to get good grades, but that's genuinely just not possible all at the same time. I mean, okay, there's obviously people that do it, and props to them, because they're probably like the 1% that really can do it, but it just didn't work out super well for me. And that was probably...
I'm the president of the...
and that was probably the first time that I realized like, wow, I'm really struggling in this class. So I ended up taking a break from my work, and I started fully devoting my time to that class. But again, the issue with the quarter system is that once you've fallen behind, it's so hard to catch up. Like honestly, at that point in time, because it had already been about like, but eventually what ended up happening is, because these classes are so hard, they're called weed out classes, the professor ended up giving everybody a 20% grade bump. So I actually passed the class with a really good grade, but not super deserved, just because the class averages were super low. So for our second midterm, the class average was a 33%. The hardest class.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I told you that one of the class averages was 33%. So anyway, so we did the final, and after that, people who had a D in the class, so people who had like a 65%, ended up passing the class with an 85%. So, because basically the way that a lot of professors do it in college is they curve the grades. So if the highest score is a 70%, then they'll curve it so that the 70% is now an A instead of a C.
Okay.
So if you got a 40%, that boosts your grade up 2 grades. So now you get a 60% kind of thing. But yeah, the second midterm, I'm not gonna lie, I got a 43% on the second midterm. But and another thing about these classes is that the class size themselves, they're so large. Like my class had around 400 students. So not only is it like hard to, not only is the class hard, but having that big of a class makes it really hard to actually connect with the professor and the TAs and like get them to, I don't know, help you in an individual need basis, because there's just not enough time to be able to learn what you need to learn.
So when you were, even though you got a 40%, like what study like habits or any methods did you have that might have helped you get that good grade?
So for the first OChem class, it definitely wasn't my study habits, because by that point, I think I'd gotten used to just doing the bare minimum to study, because my classes before that weren't hard, and a lot of the classes my freshman year were kind of repeat classes from high school, so there was a lot of information that I already knew and like had a good foundation on. But OChem is one of those things, like a lot of people say that learning organic chemistry is like learning a new language, which I completely agree with, because it just like, it literally won't make sense if you don't know the foundation and the basics. Like there's no way to do well without completely getting down the basics. And so I learned from my mistakes. My first OChem class, there's 2 OChem at UC Santa Cruz. It's a little different because you have 2 quarters of OChem, which counts as a full year for medical schools. But at other UCs, you do 3 quarters, so like an actual whole year. I don't know why Santa Cruz smushes it into 2. I honestly didn't like that because they really rushed you through everything. But what I ended up doing is, so I took OChem, the first OChem in my fall quarter, and then for winter quarter I took a break. Most people take it consecutively, so they take part 1 and then part 2 right after the next quarter, but I took a break and I kind of did my own studying by myself, along with my other classes, and I kind of got the foundations down in that one quarter. And then the next quarter in the spring, I took the second part. So with that little bit of a gap, I was able to kind of catch up on what I didn't learn the first time. And the second time I went into the class a little bit more prepared, and also I knew exactly what my weaknesses were at this point, because the first OChem class, I was so lost, I didn't even know what I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
And so the second time I was like, okay, I don't know this. And so I made it my goal to go to office hours once a week and ask my TA or my professor, like whichever one I had time for, to explain things that I didn't know. And honestly, like that made all the difference, because the second OChem class I did really well. And yeah, I feel like a lot of learning what your study habits are is just trial and error. Sometimes things work and sometimes things don't. And there's been times that for a particular class, my study habits that I have worked, but those same study habits don't have to work for a different class.
So what's like the base? Like you gotta know the basics. What class is that?
So definitely, the first biology class you take is like what was it? It's just like the most basic, like general biology class. Yeah. That general chemistry, that one's really important. And then you so OChem is honestly considered a lower division class. So technically that is also foundational, because you can't take classes like biochemistry without taking organic chemistry. You need to know all of that. So all of these lower division classes that you take in your first 2 years, those are really important. Those are the foundational classes for you to do well in your upper division classes, such as, so when you take general biology your freshman year, then you'll take developmental biology your sophomore year, and then you'll take cellular and molecular biology your third and fourth year. So that kind of just builds up on each topic.
Yeah.
A lot of times it was really repetitive, but each class, like as you go up the ladder, gets more and more specific so that you're mastering really niche and really specific subjects in biology. So you're not learning like in high school you're learning like evolution and you're learning like cells, like it's not like that. You're learning one thing in one class. So like evolutionary biology is its own class. Cellular biology is its own class. Developmental biology is its own class. So I would say like just the most basic like freshman year general biology is like the foundation that you need to have as a bio major.
Nice. And so you were studying all, but you said you were also a CNA. So how'd you really get the first like job or the opportunity to get it?
I think a lot of my jobs that I got in college, I think I personally got really lucky because UC Santa Cruz, academically, I think it's a really good school, but in terms of clinical experience, I feel like it's kind of tough to find jobs there because we only have one hospital, we don't have a medical school. So what I did is after I got my CNA license, I just immediately started applying to skilled nursing facilities because I knew that, those are the kind of jobs that would take people at an entry-level position. And I knew that I couldn't off the bat get a job at the hospital because they don't really want like entry-level students working there because again, like there's a level of maturity that you need to reach for employers to be like, okay, maybe I'll hire them. So that's how I got my first job as a CNA at a skilled nursing facility because they were really short-staffed and they ended up hiring me. And again, don't recommend. I personally did not have a good time at that job. I think I was like 19 years old and all my coworkers were like 45.
All right. Well, do you recommend doing any classes or any job classes outside of like, a science kind of track?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never had a job that isn't related to medicine.
Okay.
So I would say, but I think you can learn a lot of things from regular jobs that would help you in like working in the medical field. Like for example, I would say customer service of any kind is really good because you're gonna have to learn to deal with people. Yeah, like I feel like I've experienced a lot of angry patients and I know like a lot of retail workers experience that as well. So honestly, I just think anything that builds your people skills is really good.
Right. And so when you're working, like what's the most meaningful or like something that stuck out to you when you were working?
So at my most recent job that I just left because I moved back home, I always make sure that the patient whose last treatment it is, they come towards the end of the day, so they're the last people in the office, and then all the nurses and the doctors, like they give them a certificate and like congratulate them and they play music and they have like bubbles and
that's cool.
So many times I see those patients and like the patients are usually with their family, they're like crying tears of happiness, and it's honestly just such a wholesome moment, and it feels so good to be a part of a team that helped them achieve this much happiness after they've been through such a vulnerable and dark time. So definitely that I would say struck out to me the most.
And like, what's something that you didn't really expect to, see or do?
I feel like going into the medical field, I had a good image of like, okay, there's gonna be really hard times. Like I feel like a lot of people watch shows like Grey's Anatomy and like stuff like that. Like I would say like a lot of those little themes that they have going on in those kind of medical shows, like I think a lot of it is real. Like it does happen day-to-day life. Something I wasn't expecting though when I first started working for the oncologist that I work for is that a lot of times doctors are not as emotionally available for their patients as I think they should be, because obviously if you're a patient and you're going to a cancer doctor, you want the doctor to make you feel like, supported and like you're in good hands. But a lot of times it's kind of hard because from a doctor's point of view, like that's not the only patient they're seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're seeing, like my doctor was seeing like 20 to 30 patients a day. So it's like they literally cannot spend that much time on each patient to reassure them, and that's just something that like I know some patients get upset about. So that's something that I wasn't expecting. I feel like a lot of the emotional connections that patients form are honestly with nurses.
Yeah.
Because the nurses are such a vital part of they're the ones that are actually doing the chemotherapy. The doctor is just there to consult and diagnose and prescribe, but the doctor is not the one sitting there putting the IV in you and holding your hand through all of that. So I feel like that was one thing that opened my eyes to medicine. I was like, oh, so being a doctor doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the one building these connections with patients. I feel like they have a lot more responsibility to be able, and not enough time to be able to do things like that.
Right. When you're actually in the college or in the job or anything, what do you do with like if you feel burnt out or tired?
I think I feel tired all the time.
Okay.
But I think what I really like to do is just like take a step away from everything and do something that I like doing, do something that's fun for me. So sometimes in my free time or when I'm stressed out, I really like to paint.
Paint.
Yeah, will put on a show. And honestly, a really big part of my me handling burnouts was through my support system in college. So, I would tell my friends I'm having a really hard day, and at the end of the night, we would all sit together on the couch, we'd put on a show, we would eat dinner together, we would paint, we would do little art and craft.
Nice.
So I feel like the burnout is so real, and it happens so fast. A lot of times I don't expect to be burnt out, but by the end of the week, I'm just so exhausted and drained. I don't like reading books anymore because I have to read all the time. I'm always on, I don't know, I'm always reading a textbook or I'm on my screen reading something. I don't like reading for fun anymore, but that's something that I really like to do when I was younger. So I just feel like it's things like that. When I get burnt out, I like doing things that completely separate me and my mind from anything academic or anything related to my career. And I feel like that really eases me because I truly believe that you shouldn't live to work, you should work to live.
Yeah, pretty good answers. So you're just talking about having exhausting weeks, so what would a balanced week look like for you?
A balanced week, honestly, okay, so my last year I didn't really have many classes to take, so I ended up doing 1 quarter as a part-time student, and being a part-time student basically means that you're taking 10 credits or less. So a usual quarter, your load would be about 15 to 17 credits. But one of those quarters I decided to work part-time, so I did 25 hours a week at my oncologist clinic, and then I did 10 credits at school. And I feel like that was the most balanced that my life in college has been, because I felt like in the classes I was taking, the 10 credit classes, it wasn't super hard classes, and it was a class that I really enjoyed. We were writing research papers on Ozempic, actually, GLP-1 receptor agonists. So I really enjoyed researching that and writing a research paper about that. And my work, I loved going to work. I loved working there. It was such a great environment, a lot better than my first job. My first job. So I would look forward to going into work, and basically what I would do is I would have work three days a week, because I was around 25 hours. It was 8-hour shifts. So from 8 a.m. to 4:30, I would go to work. And then after 4:30, I would go on a walk on the beach or on West Cliff. I really love doing that. I would eat dinner, and then I would sit down, I would do a little bit of work on my research paper, and then I would just hang out with my friends. And that was the most balanced and the most healthy that I think my work-life balance has been, because I felt like I could do, like, obviously I was academically performing well, and I wasn't constantly under pressure of like, oh, I have to get these grades, because it wasn't a class that was based on grades. It was like, I'm researching something, you know? So yeah, I would say that was like a really good time in my college career where I got to do a little bit of everything that I like to do.
So that means you still have a lot of time to like, hang out, have a social life.
Yeah, and I think having a social life is so important, and honestly, I feel like in certain communities it's not talked about enough. Like I think having friends and being social and having a good support system is so important for success.
So what's a misconception people might have about, going into healthcare or anything like that?
I think, okay, one misconception that I feel like I hear a lot is that to make a difference, you have to be a doctor.
I feel like that one too,
yeah, I feel like that's a really big one, and I do not agree with that at all. If anything, I don't think doctors could do the work that they do without the support of their staff.
Yeah.
And that was honestly the biggest lesson that I learned when I worked at my clinic right now. It's not a hospital, but this was the first time that I worked with 2 doctors. I worked with the nurse practitioner. I worked with a physician associate. I worked with a team of nurses. There would usually be like 4 to 6 nurses on shift.
Yeah.
I worked with other medical assistants. I worked with medical records. I worked with insurance. I worked with HR. I worked with the medical receptionist. Like, all these people together is what made a patient's experience good. Like, that patients had such an easy time coming in to see the doctor and going through these treatments because of all of these people. Like, it wasn't just the doctor. The doctor obviously plays a very crucial part, but not the most important part, in my opinion. Like, the doctors, again, like I said, the doctor's not the one doing the treatments. They're not the ones giving you a shot. Like, whenever I would give a patient an injection, they would be like, wow, that didn't even hurt. Like, how long have you been doing this? And I would tell them like 2 months, and they'd be like, what?
Wait, so what was your position there?
So I was a medical assistant, and this was my first job as a medical assistant. So my responsibilities included drawing blood from the veins, from the fingertip, running CBCs, which is a complete blood count, and we usually do those to see if your blood markers are at the level that they should be, and if they're not, that's when the doctor says okay to give an injection, like chemo injection or chemotherapy treatment or radiation, stuff like that. So yeah, and I gave injections, just kind of like little things like that. Again, rooming the patients, taking the vitals. I was often, my doctor, he really wanted to get me involved because he knew I'm like going into healthcare. So he would ask me to write patient notes and progress notes, and he would tell me to be in the room with him. And I would kind of scribe for him as well. So yeah, I kind of did a little bit of everything.
So how's your job different from a physician assistant or a nurse assistant?
So a CNA can't give injections or draw blood, or that's not a part of the training process.
Okay.
A CNA is mostly just helping a patient rehabilitate. So you're helping with daily life activities, helping them put on their clothes, if there's a patient who had a stroke, oftentimes they can't use their limbs how they used to, so you're kind of assisting them with things like that. But a medical assistant is a lot more clinical, I would say. It's more, hands-on with actual drugs and medications and stuff like that, and rooming and making sure that the patient's charts are updated. A physician assistant they work with a doctor and they can prescribe medication, they can do consultations. Nurse practitioner and PA, I would say, very similar roles. Nurse practitioners can also prescribe and they can consult and do all these things. So yeah, and I know that the role of a PA and an NP, it kind of varies depending on the work environment. So in our work environment, the NP and PA were very independent. Like they kind of had their own set of patients that they would see whenever they were in the office, and the doctor that they worked with had their own set of patients. So usually when a patient would come in for a first consultation, like their first ever visit, they would see the doctor. And then after that, if they would come in for treatment or like an injection, it would be the PA or the nurse practitioner signing off on whether or not they need that certain medication or injection, or just following up with the patient and telling them like, you know, how their results are looking for certain labs or imaging, just stuff like that.
All right, so if an NP and PA are so similar, how would you pick which one to be?
So an NP is a really good path to go into if you go to nursing school. And like the nursing school education model is a lot different from the PA school education model, because the PA school education model follows the medical school model, because it's more like I would say more research and medicine based, and I think nursing is more like, you know, people based. Or that's at least my interpretation of it. And NPs, when you become an NP, when you go from being an RN to an NP, you get more of that medication and like all of like medication management and like being able to prescribe and stuff like that. So if I went to nursing school, I would definitely go to be a nurse practitioner. But since I wanted to do a regular bachelor's in science in my major, in a science major, I chose to do that. And so basically that way I can go and do a similar role to a nurse practitioner without having to go through 4 years of nursing school again.
So how's the time commitment for, like, let's say you have a bachelor's in nursing and then you have your bachelor's in human biology.
Mm-hmm.
After that, if you have to do more school, obviously, to become an NP or a PA. So
Yeah.
what's the difference in time after your bachelor's?
So for PAs, you do 4 years of your undergraduate degree, bachelor's in science, and then you go on and you get a master's in medical science, which is basically what allows you to be a PA. So you go to, you know, a PA school, you get your master's, and that's another, depending on the program, some programs are really fast. I would say it's anywhere from like 18 to, I've seen 18 to 33 months.
So that means that after I get my bachelor's,
yeah,
I could become a PA in less than 4 years.
So yeah, usually PA programs are
That's
2 to
pretty
3
good.
years. Yeah, 2 to 3 years, exactly. I mean, it's just like a master's degree.
Yeah,
you get a master's in anything in 2 years. So yeah, and then for nurse practitioner, I'm pretty sure it's a little bit more complicated. I'm not sure the exact route because I haven't done much research in it, but I think once you do your 4 years of nursing school, you have to become an RN, or you be an RN, and then I think you have to work a little bit and then go back to school to be a nurse practitioner. I don't think it's like something you can directly go in.
Probably a little longer.
I think it's slightly longer, but I'm not super sure.
So let's say you pick one over the other. How's the pay difference?
I think it definitely depends on the area that you're working in, but I feel like also it depends on, because I know nurse practitioners can own their own clinics,
their own practice.
Their own practice, yeah. But I don't think PAs, at least not in California. I don't think. It also depends on the state. Yeah, but I don't think PAs can. I've honestly never seen that either. So yeah, I guess it also depends like what kind of nurse practitioner versus PA you are.
Let's say it's like the same kind, like.
I'm pretty sure at the clinic I was working at right now, they made about the same.
About the same?
Yeah, I would say they made about the same, because they're both working in Santa Cruz, both work at the same clinic. I feel like they were making about the same wage. And also it depends on how much you're working. So the PA only came in like 3 days a week, and the nurse practitioner, she also came in 3 days a week, but sometimes she would come in a little bit more. So I'm sure that depending on how much you want to work, it's, you know, you're getting paid that much.
So it's like, if you're a PA, then would you have like a kind of mentor, like who is the doctor or something?
I wouldn't say mentor, it's more like a partnership.
A partnership.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely, okay, being a PA, I mean, I feel like most healthcare careers, a lot of what you do, you learn on the job. So if you start working with a doctor who's been a doctor for a longer time than you've been a PA, then obviously it would probably be more of a mentorship. But most of the PAs that I've worked with are very independent and they kind of do their own thing and they don't really need to like ask a doctor or anything. There's been times where I've been in a discussion where the doctor is asking the PA like what their thoughts on a specific case are, and they discuss cases together and they build treatment plans together. And I thought that was really interesting and cool to see that the doctor doesn't have to do everything by themselves.
So what are you thinking of, a PA?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the work-life balance is definitely more suitable for something for the kind of future that I envision for myself, just because like I said before, I just don't think that working 24/7 around the clock is like something that my personality can do. I had a very interesting conversation with the doctor I work with. I asked him like, oh, should I do MD or should I do PA? And he was like, and I asked, because he works around the clock. Like this guy gets excited when he traveled to London, and he told me he got excited because it would give him more time to work because of the time difference. Like,
what?
I'm not that kind of person. Like that's just not something, like I don't want to be working. I don't want to be on call all the time. Like I don't want people texting me all the time about my work. And being a doctor, again, like I said, there's so many there's sacrifices in every field, but like specifically being a doctor, like you are literally in charge of people's lives,
Well, does that doctor get paid per hours, or is it like?
Well, he owns the clinic, so honestly, I don't know how much he makes. It's kind of under wraps. Like it.
Really?
I don't think he get. I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's like more salary based, not hourly. Right. Yeah, but maybe if you're a doctor who's working at multiple places, if you have multiple, which that's not very common, I think. But yeah, I don't know how much, because he's technically like a businessman also. He's not just a doctor, And that was another thing for me. The reason why I was like, maybe PA would be a better route for me is because I don't have any intentions of owning my own practice. Mm-hmm. So that's just like one of the pros that I saw of going to medical school. On top of that, like I think I work a lot better in a team rather than like by myself. Uh-huh. So that was also why I thought like, okay, maybe. And again, another thing is doctors deal with a lot more things than just patients and treatments. Like I really don't want to be dealing with insurance companies and like, all the other like administrative work. So, and like I said, I really do enjoy like talking to people and working with patients. So that's another reason I was like, okay, maybe this pathway would be better for me.
Well, do you think that like the doctor would tell you like, hey, assistant, go do the paperwork?
I would quit.
Do you think that would happen?
No, definitely not. I mean, I've not seen that happen yet. So
like,
I'm
PAs confident. Don't just do paperwork all day.
No. Definitely not. Not from what I've seen.
Yeah. What do you think separates the students who succeed getting into these things like whatever PA school versus the people who struggle?
Well, I think I'm struggling. But I think persistence is the key. Yeah. Because honestly, a lot of these programs, like medical school, nursing school, like these aren't. Honestly, it's really impressive to get in on the first try. I'm actually applying to PA schools right now. I've applied to about 19 schools. And all of these schools have basically a 2% acceptance rate. Oh, like they get 5,000 applicants per year and their class size is anywhere from 50 to 80.
Do you think being a PA is like, at least right now, kind of underground, people don't really know about it?
No, it's actually the opposite.
Oh, really? Okay.
This field is becoming so overly saturated, especially because of the whole like AI boom, because why would a company hire physicians, right? Uh-huh. Why would they hire 5 physicians when they could hire 1 physician, pay the 1 physician a physician's salary rather than 5 physician salaries, give the physician an AI tool, and that's already happening. A lot of physicians are using AI to treat patients, to do progress notes, to do that stuff. So, but the issue in healthcare is you can't replace human. You can't replace human. Like I'm not going to trust I'm not gonna trust a computer, you know?
Yeah, to do
I
all
want to
surgeries,
see
yeah.
someone giving me advice. But you don't need a physician for that. You can have a PA or an NP do that. You can have one, because since NPs and PAs often work in partnerships with doctors, you can have one doctor, that company pays that one doctor, you have 4 PAs working under the doctor has an AI tool. So the
Yeah.
human to human, PA to patient connection is there, but you don't need to hire like 5 physicians. And this is a very real conversation that I've had with a lot of people that I've worked with, and I've shadowed multiple doctors. The doctor I work for, you know, he thinks that this is where medicine is headed with the rise in AI, because I feel like a lot of people have a misconception that AI is not gonna affect healthcare workers, but it certainly is. Even right now, like when I first started working, my doctor literally told me, he was like, oh, he asked me a science question, and I was like, oh, I'm not really sure. And he was like, just ask ChatGPT. And I was like, and he's a smart man. He has an MD, PhD, so
Okay.
a doctorate degree and a medical doctorate degree. So, you know, to hear someone who has these kinds of experiences, and he's been a doctor for like 20 plus years, for him to tell me, oh, just use ChatGPT, you know, like that was kind of like a very eye-opening and shocking reality where I was like, wow, this is crazy. And, you know, even now, like they've started incorporating using AI to do patient notes, progress notes, like pretty much any kind of like writing, anything tedious, like is now just being done by AI. You don't need a person there to be doing all that for you.
Well, to get into PA school, I mean, do you think that trying that hard to get into the school is worth it? Because will it be hard to find a job, or?
I don't think it would be hard to find a job at all. I think the issue with PA school is just getting in, because it's so highly competitive and saturated at this point. And another thing is that obviously there isn't enough funding right now because of the current political, you know, whatever's going on. I feel like they're taking away funding from a lot of programs, and that's also affecting them cutting down on certain resources or class sizes. So that's something to also consider. And again, it is expensive to go. It's not cheap. You know, most schools, if not all, it's like $125K per year. So but considering all those factors, for me personally, I do think it'll be worth it, just because I've had the privilege of working with PAs, and you know, I see that they have the lifestyle that I want in the future.
Well, I mean, you know how like for med school, people say it doesn't really matter that much where you go for med school. Is it like that for PA school, or do you think that?
Honestly, no, I don't think so. I think
all it
takes is one. It just takes one. But definitely, you know, it depends on your personal preferences. I know some of my peers, like they really want to go to the best schools. Like they want to go to like Duke is the #1 PA school in the country. So, and they actually founded the PA profession.
Oh wow. Okay.
So a lot of people really want to go to these big schools, but I really don't think that that's something that would deter you from getting a job, as long as, you know, you have the skills, you've learned the material, you've passed the PANCE, which is the exam you have to pass after PA school to be licensed. Yeah, I don't think the school really matters. I think it's the same concept as medical school.
I feel like there's probably not that many, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably not as many as there are medical schools, but I think there's still a good amount.
Like, can you like go to Caribbean or something?
No.
No,
no, that's not. No, you have to do that here.
Like if you're a PA and you go to another country, would they have a job opening for you, or?
I mean, definitely not, because I mean, but that's for. I think that's for every healthcare. Like you can't be a doctor licensed here and then go. I feel like it'd be easier, but definitely every country has its own like rules and regulations.
Oh, really? So if I become a doctor here, I go to like Australia, they won't let me work there?
I'm sure you'd have to take like certain exams, or like you'd have to pass some sort of licensing thing to be able to work. Like I don't think you can just like switch a country and they'll let you keep because that's a pretty big thing to do.
But it would be especially harder though, right, for a PA?
Because I feel like other countries don't really have that profession. No, no, they don't. I know people that are coming into the US internationally, they have to take the USMLE.
Yeah.
Even if they're an established doctor in their home country, they have to come here and take all of the exams again. And that I just feel like every country probably has its own regulations like that to make sure that they have safe providers.
I mean, okay, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh, in 10 years. How old am I right now? 22. So I'm 32.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really think about that. I feel like I'm thinking about things like one step at a time, but hopefully I have a job. Hopefully I'm financially independent. I feel like that's a really big thing for me. Hopefully I'm traveling a lot. I really love to travel and I really want to see the world. Hopefully I live in a nice apartment. I don't know. I just hope that I'm able to do everything that I want to do without having to worry about my work or my money or time. So, yeah.
Do you know what kinds of PA jobs you could get compared to other things? I know for a doctor or a nurse, you could be a travel nurse. You could do things like that.
Yeah, so the best thing, in my opinion, about the PA profession is the lateral mobility. So for doctors, for example, they tend to stick to one specialty.
Mm-hmm.
They don't usually switch whenever they want. I mean, not at all, honestly. But with PAs, you can honestly switch your specialty whenever you'd like, which is something that I personally really look forward to, because I don't think I'm the kind of person that can do one thing for the rest of my life. So I really want to go into dermatology, and kind of the more aesthetic sphere. But I definitely don't know if I see myself doing that forever. So I really like that I have the possibility to train a little bit more and maybe become an urgent care PA or an ER PA, or I could go into surgery. The possibilities are endless, and that's something that I really like about this career.
Would you say that, let's say you're into plastics, right? And let's say you work in plastics for 10 years after you get your PA, then I don't know, make friends with some big shot doctor in plastics, and he's like, hey, you want to be my assistant? Do you think that if that job opened up, it would matter if you were in plastics as a PA before, or if you were in surgery or ER?
Are you asking how easy it would be to switch? Or
I'm saying, if you want to get a better PA job somewhere, then would it matter if you've done stuff in that thing before?
I see what you're saying. If I've experienced in that?
Yeah.
I think the thing about PA school is that it's such a general model. The education model is you learn everything. So technically, from a didactic point of view, you are prepared for any type of situation. And I feel like what I've seen a lot of people do, if you're thinking strategically, is they start off in a specialty like urgent care or ER, where you see tons of things. So you're not just you don't just have skills in one thing. You're able to catch things up quick. You're able to what's that word when you I can't think of it, but when you're just able to do multiple things. I feel like that when you start off in a general specialty, that really helps, because people know that, oh, you probably have some sort of experience doing this. And then I've seen them become more and more specialized. So the PA that I work for at the oncology clinic, she started out in more of an internal medicine, family medicine kind of route. So when you go to get your annual physical, she was doing kind of that stuff. And then eventually she ended up getting into oncology, and she really liked the specialty, and so she just stuck with it since. So that's kind of something that maybe I would probably consider, unless I got a really good offer at a dermatology place. But yeah, I would probably try to do something more general first, like maybe ER. I think ER is also pretty exciting. I feel like you get to see a lot of
I know
different
that if you're a doctor, then you would have to do your residency in like one kind of thing, right? So if you want to switch, would you have to do another residency?
No, there's no residencies for PAs.
Oh yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
that's
so-
really why.
So I know some PAs do fellowships,
Mhm.
but there's no residency period. So you can just like, hop around, jump around, skip around.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that I really do like that aspect as well.
All right. So what are your next steps that you're looking to do?
So I actually recently just got a job offer at a plastic surgery clinic in San Jose, and I'm going to be working as a surgical medical assistant for a plastic surgeon. And I'm in my gap year right now, so I'm waiting on PA schools. I'm waiting on interviews to come out, and obviously decisions to come out. So yeah, that's kind of my goal, is to gain a lot more clinical hours. I also really want to get into more volunteer work, because I feel like that was one part of my application that was lacking in my last 4 years, because I was busy with work and school, so I didn't really have much time to fit in volunteer hours. So that's also something that I want to work on. But yeah, that's kind of those are my steps for the next year, and just kind of improving my resume wherever I can. That's not academic, because I'm like finally done with all of that. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Shagun. This taught me a lot. Thank you for watching.